real soon, guys. Here we go. And we are live again here with Yatta Debates 3, episode 3. And we have here Shelly B. And today we're going to be discussing
gender roles.
So basically, the way I want to start off this is the primary question. What is a gender role, first and foremost?
A gender role is basically like male or female. What are set roles and things that we have to do in society. So like most people expect men to be like providers, leaders, and things like that. Head of household, they take care of the bills. And then women were supposed to, according to society then and now, are supposed to be docile. We're supposed to take care of homemakers, nurturers, and things like that. Which I agree with to a certain extent, but
to a certain extent. And with that one, I'm like add on to that one. And due to my own personal bias, it's like, yes, it is certain things that I do that I believe that men should do that men should do. Like, and this is something that I have from like personal experience. I said, I don't think women should take out trash. Point blank, period. Like
I take out the trash.
I know, but it's just like I feel like, okay, if I'm near and it needs to be taken out, I'm like, ask me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why. It's just like, and that might be something like that's on the smaller side of the spectrum. Like, but it does go into like a grander and more, it goes deeper than that. But do we still have like some bias when it comes to gender roles? Is this certain things that even if we do want like a level playing field, is this still certain things that we say like men should do, women should do?
You know what? I do feel like there should be a line of what we can and can't do, because there's certain things that me personally, I feel like I can't do as a woman that men can do. Even in regards to just life or relationships, like I feel like we should have like a line of things that we can do and they can do, because once you blur that line, respect is lost at times. Because then you have women who walk around thinking they're men, have men mentality, they move like men, and sometimes we get lost in that.
Yeah, we start like you said, in a sense, blurring the lines, and I see it like this in the extent, and not to say that there has to be like any specific roles, but when we look at certain things, like when it's involving more than one person or whatever, it's in that sense like a partnership, and it's just like or let's say like a team, and like with any kind of event or sporting event or any kind of project that you work on, people play their specific positions. Like let's take basketball for example. Like you would never expect like your center to be like a shooting guard. He's in there like catching rebounds and stuff. You're not going to see him on the 3-point like or on the arch or whatever. It's things like that. So I wouldn't say it's more like so much about like gender, but it kind of is and it kind of isn't. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I know it's like I'm kind of like mincing words here, but
it's like we have to just figure out like what position do you want to play, like as a woman. Like for me, I can say that I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Like I used to move like a guy because I felt like it just, that's how it was. Like I would be like, oh no, like I could do this, I would do everything by myself, like I don't need no man, all that stuff like that. But now that I look at it, it's like, yeah, I still can be that way, but there are certain things that I can't teach my daughters that men can, that their dads can teach them. There's certain things that I don't know myself that I needed my father's guidance and my brother's guidance for. And I can't think like a man. So I don't know how you guys operate. Like I can only speak from my personal experiences and other women's experiences. But when it comes to how you men operate, it's not as complex as our thought process sometimes. Like we overthink things sometimes. Or you guys, like something simple to you guys, like you guys could just like not text us for a day. We will overthink the whole situation, and you guys will just really just be like, "Yeah, I was playing the game." And we already have like 30 different scenarios in our mind of what happened.
And that's something that you would say is let's not say that's like strictly like based on gender, but like statistically, like it will be more so on like the women's spectrum as opposed to like the men's spectrum. Like, all right, so one thing that I do want to touch on basis on is as far as gender roles, why do you think it was like such a prominent thing? Is it just because like I guess when one thing is one way for so long and nobody questions it, it's just like, okay, that's what it is, and it's just like,
well, even now the gender roles are evolving, because just think about it. Just 70 years ago, women weren't able to vote. They weren't able to do a lot of things. They were supposed to be homemakers. They weren't able to work. Like, so it's evolving. So that's why it's kind of hard to say what specific roles they really want us to play now, because if we're basing it off of the 50s, the men went out and worked and women stayed home and reared the children. So it's kind of hard to say exactly like what they expect of us, of our role now, where we're all still trying to figure it out too. But as far as like doing like manly thing, like we could still be like carpenters and things like that. But it's like,
like, you know, we got women's UFC fighters, you know what I mean? Like,
so
they in there beating the hell out of each other. But so what do you think like made that change? Like you know, we seen like, you know, the beginning steps of like, you know, women going into like the workforce and like, you know, in early history, but like this, I want to say it's like a real big, like it's like a huge dynamic now, where it's just like,
well, it started with, I believe, don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe it started with World War II when all the men left. So all the women had to take that responsibility and become responsible. And in that sense, that responsibility made us realize that we are more than just homemakers. We are more than that. They went out and worked in factories. They went out and did all these things. And then with that sense of independence, we realized that we could do a lot as women. Like we could do anything that a man can do, but really we can do just about the same. But it's still like we should have that defined role of like, I'm a woman, this is my role, and you're a man, this is what you do.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback on what you were saying before is what's going on, Jasmine? Thanks for joining the chat. But to piggyback on what you were saying is just like, again, like you said, it's certain, not even certain instances, but like a lot of instances where, you know, like I don't think I can like process things like from a woman's perspective. Like, okay, like, and I think that's where we do see like some of the confusion, and it might be like, I don't want to say like say some of the issues, but it's just like, again, it's just like having that conflicting. It's just like it might not be a situation where like a majority of men like can really see it from a woman's perspective, and vice versa, like you were saying with like the not texting like all day and being okay with that. So again,
even as far as, again, back to dating, like we as women, we get that stigma of if we date a lot of men that we're this, that, and the third thing. There's certain things that we cannot do as women. Like, I'm not saying it's right, but we can. We as women, we're not supposed to do these things because of those roles that were set on us from before. As a woman, you're, after a certain age, you're supposed to be married. You're supposed to, you know, do this. We were supposed to live off of our husband. Like our status came from our husbands back in those days. So now women are making a name for themselves, and it's like, all right, where's that line for us? Like where's the line of like what we can do? Because there's women who run their whole household without any man there at all. Nobody there to tell them anything.
You're right about that.
And they do it with no complaints, no man, nothing. Look at Tracy Ellis Ross. She's 40. She's not married. She has no kids, and she does it, and she is successful. So it's like, before, if this was again in the 50s, 40s, she would be looked at as undesirable, as all these other things.
And I think that goes back to like what I was saying, like, you know, when things go so long unquestioned, then just what did Jasmine say? It is harder for men to know their role if they were raised in a single parent household. What are their expectations of a woman? What are the expectations of a woman? And I can kind of see what she's saying. Just like, again, like with children, I guess like we get our first impression from our parents. And it's like we kind of like think society is like from an early age shaped of what we see, like what they do, you know? So it's just like if it's a scenario where it's just like, let's take it back to like the 40s and 50s. If you see your dad always go to work and your mom's always home, she's always cooking, cleaning. As a son, you might think like, okay, when I grow up, I'm going to cater more to what my dad's doing. Like he goes to work and he does this. And then like as a daughter seeing that growing up, you see like, okay, this is what my mom does, cook, clean, whatever. And it's just like, but she was saying like in the single parent household, like how do you think that might like change the dynamic of like gender roles? And especially because one thing that we do see is not just gender roles, but more independency in women. You know, like you said, really shouldering on everything as far as being a provider and a housemaker. You know, so but in that dynamic and being in like us as far as
they become confused automatically because they don't have that, or they go seek that from somewhere else because they're not getting in their home. That's why a lot of young boys who grow up in single parent households end up either joining a gang or going under someone's wing because they're looking for that male guidance. Like, even if your mom is a single parent, your father should still be there to teach you your values and things like that. And that's a bigger, broader subject. Parents teaching their children certain roles and responsibilities, because you can grow up in a single parent home and still know your role in society of what you do. Like, I didn't grow up with my dad, but from the time that he was there in my life, I knew, all right, a man is supposed to love you this way. You're supposed to get married if he really loves you, things like that. And that's something that I've taken as an adult now into value and consideration. Like, if we're going to be together, marriage is the goal. Like, I'm not going to play house, none of that.
Yeah.
It's either that and that's final.
Yeah.
Or just don't waste my time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell you like this, like, as far as gender roles in my personal experience, I felt like, again, like, as far as dating, like, and this might be due to my own biases, like, okay, like, I would ask her out, I would pay for the meal, X, Y, and Z, and I did this for like a majority of the time in the beginning. And then it started like flipping to the point where I was getting taken out days. I'm like, oh, this is nice, you know what I mean? I see why y'all like this. Like, I go here, I eat. And at first it was like, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had a waiter like bring the check on the table, and like she takes in, like, gives them the card. And you know what? I still see that. You know, like, I'll go out to eat with my girls sometimes, and like they'll automatically give me the bill. You know what I mean? And it's just like, so, and it's like, we'll see things like that where it's still, even in like the tiniest things like that, it's still kind of ingrained that we're just like, oh, if they're going out on a date, the man's paying. But it's not that way anymore. So
no, because we could go Dutch. Or one day I'll pay for the meal, pay for everything, and then one day you pay for the meal. Like,
yeah,
depends. If I ask you out, or if I say, oh, let's go somewhere, I'm probably gonna end up paying for it. But if you tell me you take me, I'm gonna sit there like.
I had this debate. Like, I used to do these debates like before they were live. I did them on Facebook, and I still do them on my Instagram. You see, I do like a polls, and I asked that question. I said, when you go out on a date, who should pay, the man or the person who asks? Like, should it always, like, even if a woman approach me and say like, oh, we should go out, at that time I still thought I was like duty bound to pay. Like, oh yeah, I have to pay.
And that's where the gender roles come in, because as a man you feel like you have to court her, so you have to pay for it. You have to do that. And
I guess and at that part, like you said, that's part of the gender role, essentially.
Yeah, because you feel like as a man you have to be that provider. Like, you have to show her, like, I'm that provider for you. Like, you don't have to worry about that. I got all this covered for you right now at this point in time. And that will show her that you are that leader that she will be able to lean on in the future. Like, that's the impression that you're giving her in that role. Like,
and it was like another specific like hump or situation that I had to kind of get over. And I found out like it wasn't just me, because one of my friends told me this. Well, one of my old friends told me this. It was a guy that she was dating, and they had got into an issue because she was making more money than him. And it was it was one of those things. It's kind of like, it's like, her pride, like, you know, she's and do you think, what's your thoughts on that? Like, as far as like,
well, in most of my relationships, I've always either made more than them, or I always was working and they weren't. They were either getting back on their feet or working. And I felt like it was like a power thing, an ego thing, because even though they didn't say it, at times I could feel it. Like, they would feel some type of way about me making more money than them. Like, even if I did offer for stuff, they'd be like, no, like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I don't want. I'm like, hey, you want some sneakers? No, I want nothing. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I'll get it. Like, I'm okay. And I'm like, all right. Yeah. Okay. And so I feel like where guys come from, where then I had to take a step back, because me making more money than them. Sometimes I would be like, oh, I don't need this. Like, you go on about your business. Like, I don't need you. And then I had to sit back and think about it. Like, okay, the money aspect, I could lose that job. But the connections that I'm building with these people, I had to take a step back and realize that that's something toxic in the role that I'm playing, because now I'm coming off as like, I don't need you. And I feel like certain men, that's something that a woman should make a man feel like he's wanted, like you're wanted there. So
and to piggyback on that, like even further, like we'll see those statuses that says and they roll sign, I need to date somebody that got this kind of car, good credit, a house, X, Y, and Z, and all of this. How do you feel about those?
I feel like that's that person perpetuating their own insecurities onto themselves. Because if you want that type of person, you would put yourself in those positions to attract that type of person. You wouldn't be online saying it. You would be in places where those people go. Like, you're not going to go to the bottom of the ocean looking for a flower on the land.
Message.
Like, you have to put yourself in those places. Like, I can't say I want a 6-figure man and I'm out on Stuyvesant chilling by a liquor store. Like, that's impossible.
I'm gonna find him here.
Like, he's gonna just drive into the store, like
pull up in the Bentley, like,
no, it's
I
not
heard you was
possible.
asking about me.
It's not possible. It's like, if you want those certain things out of life, you have to manifest those things. Like, you have to put yourself, and you also have to be that type of person too. You can't expect those type of things and want to leech off of somebody's success that they worked for. Like, you have to work and put some work into. Like, you don't have to be a made person, but you still have to put that work into for yourself. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I want a nice college educated, strong black man, and I'm over here chilling. Like, no, that's unfair. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not saying don't settle, but like, if you want to get that person, you have to be that person too. Like, you have to put out that energy as well.
So not specifically playing the gender role, but playing your role.
Your role as a person, not even as far as gender, man or woman. Like, you have to play that role. You can't expect somebody to come into your life and be perfect, but you're not perfect. Like, that's not fair to them, because now they have to work on you.
So moving forward, because it's 2019, do you still think, I don't want to say afflicted, but do you still think it might be something that we deal with, like, in the future? Like, is it something that's just going to be like, it's going to come down to a point where it's just like, it's just widely accepted that everybody has like their role to play? Or is it always going to be like some kind of unwritten laws that men do this, women do this, or men don't do this and women don't do this?
I feel like it depends on the people that you speak to, because now we're moving into the blurred lines of like people not identifying with any gender or anything like that. So it's like all those things get blurred. So it depends on who you would ask. Like, if you're talking to a cisgendered man or a female, yes, some of them are going to say, yeah, I have defined roles. But if you're talking to new age people who are like, no, like, I could do whatever a man could do. And then you have men who have women tendencies because they don't know how to be a man and things like that. So it's kind of hard to say where we're going to go. But for the most part, I feel like as long as we do have these open conversations, we could see like where people's head are at, like, especially when you go into dating, because you don't want to date someone who's a polar opposite of you as well too. As far as thinking like, all right, you date a woman who's like, I make more than you, I'm gonna tell you what to do, what to wear, what to say, like.
Because like at that point, it's not really about like gender, it's just control at that point. It's just like, okay, I'm the provider, so now I hold the power. So now you going, it's not equal, it's just a shift in power. You know what I mean? And
if you're gonna do anything, like you said, partnership, like, it doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, the partnership, like, you do what you do, I do what I do, and we're gonna make this work, like this wheel turn. Like,
it's all about like uplifting each other. It's not like, I see what you're saying, not necessarily like playing a role, but like really, like you said, uplifting and supporting each other well in whatever role that is. Like, if it is like her being like a stay-at-home mom or whatever, like just making sure like 6 hours. I was like getting my thoughts. But if she is like a stay-at-home mom, then like, or if that's what you want in essence, then you at that point need to do your part. Because I remember, and there was a guy that I talked to at the job one time, and he was saying, he was like, yeah, I was cool with her like being home or whatever, but like when I came home, the house was dirty. Like you can't. It's like all right, I want to play that role, and then don't play that role. Like you know what I mean? Like I want to cook and clean. I want to like that. But then when you come home, like it ain't no
nothing
food
there. Like if you're like people think, oh, if you're a stay-at-home mom, like that's a woman part. If you're a stay-at-home mom, like you just get to chill at home. Like no, that's a full-time job in itself. Taking care of kids is a full-time.
Washing dishes, sweeping,
cleaning up toys, cleaning up the kids, running errands with the children that they have doctor's appointments, doing all those things. That's a full-time job. So can you imagine doing that and being a working parent? Like that's why that role was blurred, because a lot of those things were based on women not working at that time. Like we could do all those things because we were home.
Now let me ask you this: would you ever accept a stay-at-home husband if you was like in that position where you had somebody who was just like, okay, you would be like, let's say like a complete role reversal from like the 40s and 50s?
Oh yeah, I would be down for that.
Yeah.
like you stay at home, take care of the kids. I work, and then I come home, and I'll still cook and things like that. But like, there's certain things that I'll still do. But
could you like to cook or like?
Yeah, that's probably why. But I would still do all that. But I wouldn't leave the whole burden on you either. Yeah. Like I would still like, all right, you with the kids all day.
So now that's one of the things. Is it's still some things. And I mean that might be unique to you because you still got some people out here that just like don't cook. Yeah. Like you know what I mean? Like it don't matter if it's like male or female, like they just don't cook. But do you still think you would have like those womanly tendencies just based off you being a woman?
Yeah, probably just because of like the things that were instilled in me. Like I said, everything is like generational. Like we learn these things. These are learned things through us. So it's not like we just are like we were born and that's the ideas they were taught to us.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it's
that's why when you miss out on certain things from certain people, like I can't imagine not growing up without my mom because then I wouldn't know how to be a woman, how to conduct myself as a woman, like how to maneuver through life as a woman, because there's certain things that she tells me even now as an adult, she tells me what to do, how to move, how to be respectful of myself and my body, and how to portray myself in certain situations and things like that. Whereas there's people who don't have that guidance,
you're right about that,
who lack that, and you can see it. So for me, it's like, I don't know, like me not having my dad is kind of like, I didn't have him, but I had like other male around me to show me like, yeah, you can do all these things. Yes, it's possible. We believe in you, but you're still a girl. Like, you can't go out there and fight, guys. Because I tried. You can't go out there and do that. You can't go out there and fight, guys. You can't do all that. Like, don't go up and think you're a man, like go punching dudes in the face, and then when he punches you back, now you want to be a girl again. Like, you can't do that. There's certain things, like I have to have respect for men as well too, like in what they do.
And that's what we kind of see, like touching on it. That's kind of what we see on the spectrum with certain people. Like they want gender roles to apply when they want it to. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's just like,
and you can't twist it to apply to just certain situations. Like if you're gonna stand by that, stand by that. Like, don't say, oh, I'm gonna hit dudes, and then when he hits you back, now you call the cops. Yeah. Like, and you were hitting him first. And thankfully, nowadays they take whoever's injured, so it's not biased. Before they just would automatically take the ban.
Yeah, and we seen. Trust me, I was like on that Law and Order binge. And so we definitely seen like on that spectrum, man. To be honest, I didn't even know that. Like as far as who's ever injured. So thank you for opening my eyes to that.
Yeah, they'll take So if we get into a fight and you're visibly injured and I'm not, they will take me in because I am presumably the aggressor. Whereas before, even if I was not injured and you were injured, they would take you because you were the man. So I feel like now that goes with the equality of everything, because a lot of times we look at women's rights, but we don't look at like there's everybody's rights now. Like because then men get lost in there too, because with the evolving thing of our rights, we feel like a lot of men are losing some of their rights, and it's not. It's actually more conform to us now. Conform to everybody's equality.
And that's what, and that was the one thing I was saying before. It's just like that's what we don't want. We don't want like a complete power shift, because all it is just it doesn't change it. It just flips it from one spectrum to the other. And it's just like, and then you have the vice versa. Now we fighting for men's rights, you know, it's just like.
It's like, no, it's like everybody is now equal now. Whereas before it was just solely about the man and, you know, things like that. And women were looked at as, you know, less than men. Like in certain cultures, women still can't drive.
Yeah.
So it's like.
And like you said, like, even more so, like you said, to this day, it's still situations in countries and places where, you know, the male is the center figure of the household or whatever, and then like you said, women are still like stay at home, and it's just like it's crazy to think about that, but it's like it still goes on to this day, and it's just like, well, while it may be changing over here, it might be you might go somewhere else, and it's just like you start seeing those like same behaviors, and it's just like you start seeing it's just like, well, it still has like a long way to go. So
yeah. And I feel like we do still have a long way to go as far as this, because a lot of women and men today, we didn't have the guidance. Like a lot of them don't have that. And they're looking for that. They're seeking that. And that's why there's a lot of attention seeking, clout chasing, things like that. Because we were seeking approval and acceptance of things that we should have had as children. And that also plays a role in our roles.
You're right about that.
Because then we don't know what role to play. Because we're trying to figure it out ourselves, like.
And I'll speak again, and we say this before, like social media has like a lot to do with that, because before, where, you know, somebody might have had like the same idea as you or the same thought process, and, you know, as far as like gender roles and everything, but you couldn't necessarily like get in contact with that person, or you couldn't speak to that person, or you guys couldn't communicate those ideas together and really build a foundation out of it. Like a lot of these movements and stuff that we see, they're formed on social media. You know, they're not in group meetings. So, you know, that does have a big part to play on it. It's just like more so with the modern era. It's just like, you know, they say like, you know, we more tolerant and accepting to things that change, you know. So I guess moving forward, it would just, I can't really say, we'll see. Like, yeah. I don't want to say like it'll get better and then, you know, something like completely it completely does a 180 or something, but I can say we can only see what tomorrow brings. But like I said, even with the one that you just brought up to me, like I didn't even know that. So it's starting to see that it's leveling out on both sides. And who is this? Ty Millen. What's going on, Ty Millen? I didn't even know he was in here. He might have been sitting in the chat. like say something to me.
But yeah, I definitely feel like social media does play a big part in our roles as well too, because now you have a lot of women on there who do come off as like very masculine. We're not as feminine on there. Like we let you guys know, like there's women out here who are shooting their shot. Like before you could ask women, like certain women would be like, no, I would never shoot my shot at no guy. And there's certain women who go full court, like shoot gun in the guy's inbox. So it's like, that line is blurred, and I feel like a lot of guys aren't receptive to that. Like, I've talked to a few guys, and they're like, "Oh no, like that scares me. Like she comes off as aggressive. Like, but, what's aggressive about a person who knows what they want?"
Yeah, but again, that's just something that, like, again, that we have to get used to, because we aren't used to women being like the aggressors. Like we're the ones that, like, you know, we gotta kind of be like, when you gonna let me take you out? When you gonna do it? But then, like, even my girl, like she like, you know, we started talking about, we had set up a date, but then she like pulled up on me like, oh, let's go. And I was just like, whoa. Like, like, not that it was a bad thing, but it was something different. It says, what about dating outside your race and adopting to their perspective of gender roles? Now, that's something interesting, because you do have people in like when you do get into like certain races and religions where it's just like, somebody says like, all right, let's say let's not even say if it's race or religion, but let's say a guy comes up to you and says, I make X amount of money, I want you to be a housewife. How would you receive that? And he's not saying it like, let's not say like necessarily like in an aggressive tone, like he'll sit you down and just like I got, you know, the bills cover X, Y, and Z, this cover whatever the situation is, and he says the only thing I would need you to do is go back to being a housewife. You know, the house, the kids, cooking, cleaning, errands, X, Y, and Z. What is your stance on that?
For me,
personally, your personal stance.
I've worked since I was like 15. So for somebody to tell me like, yeah, just stop working and just, stay home, I probably look at them like they have 3 heads. That means I'm giving up my financial freedom for them to just tell me when and where I can spend my money. Like, even if I would probably try to compromise in that situation, like be like, all right, I won't work full time, but can I work at least like a part-time weekend job where I could have my own independent money aside from your money so that I can do what I need to do for the kids instead of having to come to you as the sole source of income. But as far as like being a housewife, I would have no problem with that. But like I said, I still need my like independence as well too, because I'm used to that. I've been accustomed to that. That's something that I've grown accustomed to. But if I've never worked or haven't really been working like that, somebody's like, yeah, you could be a housewife. Look like I hit the jackpot. Like, yeah, I'm staying home.
No, and that kind of like branch, like I'm glad you brought up that point, because not even just like having your own money, but also pursuing the things that you want to do. That also like comes into play. It's just like if it's so normal for you, or like even back then for you to just be like a housewife, it's just like, when do you get a chance to like act on your aspirations? And
you weren't supposed to. That was the whole point. Yeah, you weren't supposed to.
Yeah, so.
You weren't supposed to have any aspirations other than being a wife. That was your aspiration. Whereas now you can go, if I want to be an astronaut, I could be an astronaut. If I want to go be a doctor, if I want to travel the world, I can do any of that now. Versus before, that if you were to do that, you were looked at as strange.
Yeah.
You were looked at as eccentric. Whereas now it's common for women to be like, hold on, I don't want to have no kids in my 20s. I want to have kids in my 30s and 40s. I want to travel the world. I want to get my doctorates. I want to do this and that. I mean, not knocking anybody who's doing it backwards, because I'm doing it backwards, but still, it's now we can do that. But we have that option to do that.
Yeah, and it's like I think still sometimes and again, this is just like through habit, we do still see some disparities where it's just like more male dominated fields and then more women dominated fields. Like my girl just graduated from the fire academy, and it was only like 2 women in that graduating class. But now we're starting to see more and more. And I noticed one thing when they said in the ceremony, because they're so accustomed to it, they still refer to it as a brotherhood. But just because for years and years and years and years and years, that's what it's been. Same thing with waste management. Tell me one time when you see a woman out there.
Listen, like, I would be that chick hanging off the garbage truck. If it had to come down to it, I'd be hanging right off the garbage truck, fling that thing right in the back.
I couldn't see you on the garbage truck. I couldn't see you. And they're in the green jumpsuit with the waste management cap on.
Yeah, and then on the weekends, I'll just clean it up real nice.
Like, I saw you on Tuesday.
Yeah, you saw me on Tuesday looking crazy. I didn't have no wig on, nothing. It was okay. But now here I am today. But yeah, like I said, there is women now who can do that. Before we couldn't do all of that. Yeah. But then it's like that line that's being blurred again, because then, all right, we have Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and then you have girls who are petitioning to be like, I want to be a Boy Scout. But we learn it's the same thing, just different place. So it's like, sometimes I feel like it's like overdone to a certain extent. Like, yeah, we want equality, but at whose expense?
Yeah. So. Yeah. Like you said, you can't fight for equality and end up getting inequality. You know what I mean? Like that's
because then it's like now it's like we're trying to take away the masculine and emasculate men too in the process of that, of us becoming more independent as women. That's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not.
And thank you for reminding me that I wanted to say, like, is there situations and not situations, but it's just like points in time where you're just like, damn, I just want to see a man just be a man, like sometimes it's like go kind of revert back into that, maybe not all the time, but like kind of revert back into like that masculine nature. It's just like
there's certain instances where I look for that, like where I'm like, yes, like thank God you're just a manly man. Ooh, I don't have to worry about, I don't have to question this. I don't have to go check on Tinder or anything like that to see if she got a secret lifestyle going on or anything. Because I prefer a manly man. Like, I want somebody who is going to be like, I'm going to do this at this time, like, but still, in a sense, be okay to express their emotions and things like that. But allow me to be a woman and I allow you to be a man, but never step on your toes in that aspect.
It was one thing that caught me off guard. This was like a couple years ago. So my uncle sells hats, like when you're coming off 29, getting on Route, when you getting off Route 1 coming on to 29, it's that lot. So I seen this couple's car break down, and a girl hopped out and the guy hopped out. Now this dude was in the crispiest white sneakers, white tee, white jeans on, like fresh, whatever. And his girl came out like she was just like kind of like a little dingy, and they had to change their tire.
Like, let me guess, she changed the tire.
Yeah, and I'm like, and this is like, and it wasn't anything against her, and I'm just like I'm looking at him like, damn, dog, like you got this time to be like fresh or whatever, but like you can't change the tire, like.
He didn't want to dirty up his nails and his shirt.
I know, but it's instances like that you know I kind of revert back to my bias. I'm just like, well, I'm like, you should be doing that. Like,
well, yeah, he should have been doing that, and that's why we were taught to change that tire. Like my brother made sure, like, and my mom made sure that I knew how to do the basics on a car, because there are certain men out there who don't know how to do that, and it's probably not even his. It's probably not even his fault, really. It's just he probably never had anybody to sit down and be like, son, this is how you change the tire. Yeah. This is what happens if the car breaks down. You gotta pour a little water on the radiator, shake it a little bit, make it look like you're doing something, knock little things. See if it turn back on. Like, stand there like, you stand there like, yeah, I got this right here.
I think it's fake.
But they didn't have that. So that goes back to that. Like, he probably didn't know how to change the tire, and she did. And that's probably what it breaks down to. He just probably didn't know. Because I know if my tire is flat, I'm gonna look to, if I'm in the passenger seat, I'm looking at the driver's seat like, you gonna push it? You gonna try to take it? The jack's in the trunk. You don't pop the trunk.
Like, you know what you're doing, right?
Like, if you don't know what you're doing, I come out there. I'll talk you through it. Yeah. Or like, for instance, my friend was driving my car to a graduation down in South Jersey, and my tire actually burst on her, and she was on 295 and parked, and so she was about to get out, full and curtains, and about to change the tire, and a man pulled up behind her and was like, I got this. Like, he didn't know her from a can of paint. He changed the tire and he left. And so there's still people out there who are like that. So it's like, he could not probably have brought himself to see her change that tire. Like,
yeah. And it's just, it's one of those things, again, it's like on the spectrum. It's like a good and bad thing. Like, yeah, like you should, like you say, it's a good skill to have, like, for anybody, you know what I mean? Because it might be a situation where you might not be with anybody, and but then again, like, still having that kind of mentality, like, all right, let me help her out, so.
And that just goes down to like who you are as a person. Like, you should be like, all right, I'm gonna help you out. Like, I don't want you to get down there and struggle, because the tire is heavy. That's the realness of it. Like, I'm just gonna put it out there, like, and lift that car up with the jack and do all that. Like, that's a lot of work. Like, maybe if we are teamwork, like, all right, I'll take the bolts off, you jack the car up, and then we work as a team. Even that way, like, we teach each other how to do it. But solely depending on one person to do it. But there's some men who, like I said, will not let you even touch the tire. Like, go stand over there, don't touch the car, and just wait until I'm done.
How do you feel about that?
Again, I like manly men. So I'm like, all right, word. Let me get that. I'm about to drink something. Relax.
Yeah, and I mean, that boils down to like, my parents showed me how to cook, so it was just like, I can go in the kitchen and whip something up, not just like a pack of noodles, like,
Oh, I was gonna say.
No, I know how to cook. Like, I can go in the kitchen. Like, my mom will attest to it.
Yeah.
Right.
How old you was when you was washing clothes?
How old was I? I think like 9 or 10. Yeah, she wasn't going for it. She was like,
my mom is the same way with my brother. Like, my brother is one of the best. He cooks better than me. Like, he's one of the best cooks that I know. He cooks, he can clean a house, and he can take care of children. And on top of that, he works. But that's just him as a person. And he didn't have any dad around to show him that. Like, he had to be that man and do that. And he has a family of his own now, and he's that man for his family. And so, it depends, like, case by case. Like, he had my dad for a period of time, for like, at least I want to say from 1994 to 1999, we had my dad around to show us that. But after that, we were on our own, figuring it out. So my brother still turned out to be a stand-up man. Like, he's a gentleman at this point. I haven't seen him raise his voice at a woman. Like, he knows his role as a man, and he plays that role as a man. Like,
yeah, so that's important. And I guess, like, again, I guess this, like, the statement is more so not playing the gender role, but playing your role specifically. Like, whatever your dynamic is, and it's not even just in, like, relationships, like, just in any way you approach anything, like if you just, even if we just like working on a project or something like that, whatever, like just make sure you playing your position to the best of your ability and making sure you uplifting and supporting each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't want it to fall on all one person, because that's what happens too. Like, it's not fair. And then at that point where it's like, I got to carry the weight of the relationship and everybody's baggage on top of me. Like, that's why a lot of those women be like, I don't need no man, I don't want to carry their baggage. Like, I got to carry my own baggage and then yours on top of that. Like, no, it's heavy.
Like, you're not here to like help out.
You can help me carry them too. Like, we can carry them together and support each other and even the load. And it's not even in a lot of situations. And that's not even a role thing. That's just life.
Yeah, and we see those situations like all too often. But again, but Shelly, thank you so much for coming on Yatta Debates. And guys, thank you so much for everybody who was watching today. We will be back. Oh yeah, one thing I did want to mention, Shelly does have another show that she does.
I do Ladies Uncovered.
Ladies Uncovered. I will post a link up into that in the description when I get back, and they can check out. I know you did one on.
We did our episodes part 1 and 2, and then we're currently looking for a topic for episode 2. So. You guys want to help me out, and give me some ideas of what we could talk about, things like that.
All right, guys.
Guys, any guys want to be on there? Anybody in general? We are not gender biased. We're just looking to give out good, wholesome advice.
I might be the next guest. All right, so guys, thank you so much for watching, and we're going to end the debate here. And until next time.
All right. See ya.